I knew something was wrong before the speeches started. It wasn't the silence. That kind of silence had visited many rooms in my life. Courtrooms before a verdict. Boardrooms before layoffs. Hospital rooms before bad news. Silence could be respectful, even kind. This silence was different. It leaned forward. It waited. People were too attentive, the way waiters hover when they expect a complaint. Every movement around me felt calibrated. Glasses refilled too quickly. Chairs pulled out a second before someone reached for them. Smiles arrived early and stayed too long, like they were being held in place by effort rather than feeling. My name came up often, but never quite to me. I heard it spoken from across the table, from the far end, wrapped in anecdotes that stopped just short of acknowledgement. Your father always... He's been so consistent about... We all know how much he values. The sentences curved away before landing, as if directness would break something fragile. My wife sat 2 chairs away. That detail mattered. We had always sat next to each other at public dinners, close enough that our elbows touched, close enough to perform unity without thinking about it. Tonight, she had angled her body toward the children, shoulders turned, legs crossed away from me. She wore the smile she used at fundraisers and alumni events. Measured, practiced, adjustable depending on who was watching. It was a smile that didn't require warmth, only endurance. The room smelled like overcooked steak and vanilla frosting, sweet and burned at the same time, a combination I hadn't encountered before, but one that lodged itself instantly in memory. 40 years reduced to a scent, protein and sugar, obligation and reward. Someone tapped a glass lightly, not hard enough to command attention, just enough to signal sequence. This was planned, not rehearsed loudly, but rehearsed thoroughly. I watched the rhythm of it now that I knew to look. The way my daughter straightened her posture, the way my son adjusted his cuff, the way my wife smoothed the tablecloth as if erasing wrinkles that didn't exist. The envelope arrived with the cake knife. That too struck me as intentional, symbolic without being obvious. A white envelope, thick, clean-edged, slid onto the table beside my plate as the server placed down dessert plates no one had asked for yet. No one stood. No one raised their voice. No toast was offered. My daughter reached for the envelope and pushed it toward me, as if we were finalizing a dinner order, something already agreed upon that simply needed confirmation. She laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, confidently, the laugh of someone who had rehearsed this moment alone and was pleased to find it landing on schedule. Your pension is ours, she said, clearly, evenly. You get nothing. Congrats on 40 years of wasting your life, old man. There was no echo. The words didn't bounce or reverberate. They fell flat and stayed there, heavy as paperweights. No gasp followed. No protest. The silence after was dense, approving. I looked at her face. Not for anger, but for curiosity. I wanted to see if she was watching me or watching the room. She was watching the room. I opened the envelope. Divorce papers. Attachments. A tidy stack of expectations, tabbed and highlighted in places where someone anticipated resistance. There was language about assets, timelines, compliance. Language that assumed friction and had prepared for it. My wife watched my hands, not my face. The children avoided eye contact the way people do when they've already won something and don't want to appear cruel about it. I nodded. The pen was heavier than I remembered. That was the first thing I noticed. The weight of it in my hand. The subtle resistance when I uncapped it. How deliberate my fingers felt. As if they were reminding me that small actions still mattered. The ink flowed smoothly. I signed everything. Initialed where the colored tabs told me to. No objections. No questions. When I finished, I aligned the pages neatly, slid the stack back across the table, and folded my napkin. Understood, I said. Someone exhaled. It might have been my son. It might have been relief moving around the table like a breeze, touching everyone at once. I didn't stay for dessert. No one tried to stop me. No one asked if I was okay. Chairs scraped softly as people shifted, uncertain whether they were expected to do something else now. I took my coat, nodded to the server, and walked out into the night air. which felt sharper than I remembered. That night, I returned to my office for the last time. I had imagined this moment differently. I had thought I would linger, leave notes, organize files, say goodbyes to people who mattered. I had imagined myself moving slowly, deliberately, savoring the end of a long chapter. Instead, I boxed only what fit in my hands. A framed photo I didn't look at. A book I never finished but kept moving from shelf to shelf, convinced I would one day return to it. The plant someone gave me when I made partner, still alive despite years of neglect and fluorescent light. I returned my keys to security without explanation and walked out through the side door, the one no one used, the one that bypassed the lobby entirely. It felt appropriate. Quiet exits had always suited me better. By morning, I was gone. I didn't disappear dramatically. There was no note, no threat, no declaration. I canceled my phone number and forwarded nothing. I checked into a hotel under my middle name and paid cash. The clerk didn't look up from the screen long enough to register me as anything more than a transaction. I slept for 14 hours. When I woke, the familiar pressure behind my eyes, the one I had assumed was just part of aging, was gone. No calendar tugged at me. No expectation buzzed beneath the surface of my thoughts. Silence, I learned, has a shape when you finally let it in. On the second day, I went to a public library. I read until my back hurt, not because I had anything specific to learn, but because I could. I ate soup at a counter where no one asked me anything personal. I walked until my shoes blistered and didn't call anyone to complain. No one needed anything from me. The realization was unsettling and liberating in equal measure. On the third day, the call came, not from my family. A calm voice, professional, careful with syllables. A woman who sounded like someone whose job was to deliver information, not emotion. She verified my identity using questions only I could answer, questions drawn from records older than my children. Then she explained, in neutral language, that a trigger had been activated. A beneficiary change finalized years ago, irrevocable once a specific condition was met. Retirement, effective immediately. There's nothing you need to do, she said. I'm calling as a courtesy. I thanked her and ended the call. That was when the phone, my new phone, began to vibrate. Once, twice, then constantly. 43 calls over the next hour. Messages stacking on each other. Tone shifting like weather. Confusion first. Then irritation. Then accusation. Finally, something close to panic. I listened to one voicemail. My wife's voice was tight, stripped of polish. She said my name as if it were a lever she could still pull. She asked where I was. She said there had been a misunderstanding. She said we needed to talk about timing. Timing. I turned the phone off. They had assumed something about me that night at the restaurant. That I was tired in the way people are tired when they can be pushed. That I was sentimental. That 40 years of consistency meant predictability. They mistook my silence for surrender. What they didn't know, and what I had never corrected, was that I read everything I signed. That I made decisions early, quietly, and rarely spoke about them. Years ago, when my wife suggested simplifying our finances, I agreed, and kept one account separate. Not out of suspicion, out of habit. When my daughter went to law school and joked about maximizing outcomes, I smiled and updated a designation. When my son asked about early retirement timelines, I answered generally and chose specifics for myself. None of it felt like strategy at the time. Felt like adulthood. The authority didn't intervene with flashing lights or raised voices. It intervened with forms processed, dates honored, and money moved according to rules that did not care about dinner speeches. The plan they had relied on unraveled not because I fought it, but because it depended on me being late. I wasn't. By the end of the week, the calls stopped. I imagined there were meetings, lawyers, calculations rewritten in less confident language. I wasn't there to hear it. I rented a small apartment with windows that faced an alley. I bought a table and 2 chairs. I learned the names of the people who worked the morning shift at the cafe downstairs. I took my time. There was no triumph in it. No speech rehearsed in the mirror. Some nights, I woke with my chest tight, missing the sound of my children arguing in the next room. Other nights, I slept deeply and woke surprised by the absence of dread. Once, months later, I received an email from my daughter. It was careful, legal adjacent, stripped of laughter. She suggested mediation. She used words like fair and family. I read it twice and archived it without replying. Dignity, I learned, is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand witnesses. It is the ability to choose not to return to a table where you were already eaten. I don't know what they tell people now. I don't correct the stories. I walk. I read. I cook for myself. I am learning what my life looks like when it belongs to me. It isn't a victory anyone applauds, but it is quiet, and it is mine.